Let's take this further here on the program. Dominick Izzo, a former police officer from Chicago, now joining us live this evening here on RT International. Great to see you today. Sorry it's with such bad news. It really is an awful incident here that's happened with this young girl. It kind of highlights the frequency of crime in the city. Dominick, with the record homicide rates currently coming in, is this a freak situation now, or is there something broken in terms of governance?
No, it's not a freak sort of situation. This happens disturbingly repetitively in Chicago. This is a broken government system we have, from our state's attorney, Kim Foxx, to the mayor and her vilification of the police officers who are underneath her, to our sheriff, Tom Dart, who's absent at the helm, all the way to, and I'm gonna catch some real hell for this one. The pastor who was speaking, I have no contact with him whatsoever, and I agree with everything he says. But these pastors are part of the problem too. Chicago has a very famous pastor, Father Michael Flager, who is an inflammatory figure in this city, who does more harm than good. These pastors are leaders. They're community leaders. And I know that there's a conflict of interest when you're leading your flock talking about politics, but these pastors have massive influences on how to change the vote in this city. This problem is not the police. This problem, it's their citizens, it's their flock, but it's also in how they vote. They keep getting these people, their congregation, to vote Democratic every single election. Chicago is 100 years run Democrat. So if these men who are in such positions of authority, I'm not talking about the police, I'm talking about pastors, have a real issue, it's time to start looking at leadership for the city and maybe steering your flock a different direction.
It's an interesting comment you make there, Dominick, about these pastors getting political here. When I asked you about, is this a freak occurrence here, that this stray bullet shooting, or is there a matter of broken governance? You said it is a matter of broken governance. How is it broken, Dominick?
A couple of months ago in Chicago, the Chicago police officers, who are some of the hardest working men and women out there, they arrested two rival gangs for shooting at each other. State Attorney Kim Foxx, her office screened the incident, and no arrests were made. All parties were released from whoever the gang members were that the CPD picked up, and they were released on mutual combatants, no charges. This State Attorney Kim Foxx, she is delusional just as much as the mayor is. She's making the cops' job harder. To be honest, I don't even know why CPD does any job. I don't know why they do their job, because the harder they work, they're not going to get any backing from the state's attorney's office or the mayor, and they're just going to be having. They're the ones taking the hits. The cops are being blamed for everything that everyone else is doing.
I know you had made a mention a couple of weeks ago when you were here with us on RT that you said that some of the police have been turned or made into that of a scapegoats. Are we still witnessing the fallout from the whole defund the police movement, do you think?
The defund the police movement is one thing, and then next year it's going to be something else. The police will always be the pawns, because they're right in the middle. You've got the elected officials who make the promise, elect me, I'm going to change things. You've got the state's attorney who are making deals with the defense attorneys, who are also an elected position, state's attorney, elect me, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Then you have the citizens who are committing the crimes, who are also the ones who are calling for safer neighborhoods, because the crime, not everyone's committing crimes. Then you have the cops, the ones who are right in the middle. And the entire burden of peace and prosperity is put on their shoulders, with no support from communities or the ones who are there to back them, their government. So they're the ones who are taking the worst position, the hits on all sides, and they're always going to be taking the hits. They're the pawns.
Dominick, is the situation in Chicago really as bad as the statistics are saying right now?
I wouldn't come here. I live 20 minutes outside of Chicago. I haven't been to the city in a year. I wouldn't. You got the Magnificent Mile. You got your Lakeshore Drive, State Street, all this. I wouldn't. If my family said they're going to be going to the city, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. You're not going. The problem is the element is not being held accountable for, right? The cops are doing their jobs, and even when the cops are doing their jobs on site, they're crucified for it. The element, the criminal element, is also making its way to the more affluent neighborhoods of Chicago. And as they continue, they're going to start making their ways in the suburbs of Cook County. Everybody talks about Chicago, Chicago, Chicago. The thing to keep in mind is it's within Cook County, Illinois. Chicago is 2.7 million people. Cook County, Illinois is 5.8 million people. Every time the news reports, they report on Chicago. They're not talking about the southern bordering neighborhoods or the western bordering neighborhoods of the city, which have their own element that the city is chasing out, committing crimes, and then fleeing right back into. This is going to get a lot worse.
Dominic, I've got about 20 seconds left here. If you could divvy up the blame between leadership and gangs using guns, could you try it and share the blame between those two sides, or is it's not that simple?
No, the gangs are never going to accept responsibility. So you know what? Let the cops return to the Constitution. Our deadbeat sheriff, Tom Dart, has to go. The sheriff has to start stepping up. State police need to be able to do their jobs more. Chicago police needs to do their job there and get this abhorrent disgrace of a mayor and state's attorney out of there.
Dominick Izzo, former police officer from Chicago, joining us live here on RT International. Very insightful comments. Thank you very much for your time. Cheers.
Thank you.